Rob, it's happened again.
Is it?
Yep, we play a song and magically, by coincidence, the person who's singing it is on the other end of the phone. Steve Kilbey from the church, good morning to you.
Good morning, two blokes.
How are you, mate?
Pretty blokey.
That's what we like. We like blokey blokes on the Two Blokes. Now, I believe you're in an airport flying somewhere exciting?
I am flying to Melbourne. That's exciting.
That's very exciting. We'll rush out to Tulla and welcome you.
Yeah.
Guitar in tow, Steve. Are you playing somewhere tonight or just over the next few days, or is this an Easter rest?
I'm doing 3 regional gigs. I'm doing Trentham, I'm doing Port Fairy, and I'm doing Frankston.
Frankganistan, as they like to call it in that part of the world these days.
Yeah.
We like having people like you on to chat about their career, and then we can promote some shows that are going to happen quite nearby, apart from those 3. You're another one of those ones what was born in England and came out and took the Australian music industry by storm.
I am. I had no say in it. I had no say in it. Yeah, but that's me, a 10-pound pom.
And you settled in Canberra, as I understand it.
No, first of all in Dapto.
Nice.
And then, to get me some regional Victoria cred, I did a year in Shepparton.
Oh.
And then I went to Canberra when I was 10.
Now, I'm disappointed that you called it Shepparton, having lived there. I would have thought you would just call it Shep, surely.
Shep. Shep, yeah. And then, sometimes we even went to Maroothana.
Oh, that's almost an overseas trip, isn't it, across the river?
Across the Goulburn River.
Yes, indeed.
Steve, your memories of being dragged out here to Australia, clearly not your choice. What age were you, and have you got fond memories of after initially being shocked by the change of weather and the like to instantly liking Australia?
Well, my dad loved it. My mum didn't love it. So I was confused because my mother kept saying, I want to go home. I want to go home.
Mm.
And we did the first 6 months in a caravan in some Relly's back garden. And my dad thought Australia was the land of opportunity. He loved the weather and he loved everything. And so I had some mixed feelings. I was confused what was going on.
And there's actually a TV series on the moment on one of the pay TVs called 10-Pound Poms, and it seems that was not an unusual circumstance where one member of the family really loved it and others said, no, I just want to go home.
Well, for my dad joined this company now defunct called H.G. Palmer's. And because in those days it seemed to me if you were an Englishman or an American, the Australians were, unlike today, the Australians were really impressed. A lot of the newsreaders, there was a newsreader called Chuck Faulkner.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Do you remember him?
Yeah, he was in Division 4 as well.
Yes. Anyway, my dad rocketed up the ranks at H.G. Palmer's, and his whole Cockney carry-on really impressed people. And he loved the weather, and he loved everything. And my mother was sort of like real drag, like, I miss home, and she missed everything. Yeah.
Did she eventually come around, Steve, which would have no doubt made life easier for everyone?
And you know what? She and I came around about the same time, but it was a long time later.
Okay.
Like when she was in after all the kids had left home, and she retired up in sort of New South Wales Central Coast, and she eventually went back to England a couple of times, and she went, bugger England, Australia.
Yeah, I think most people who live on the Central Coast might feel likewise. It's not a bad part of the world to be living.
It's beautiful, yeah.
You made mention of things being different now, Stephen, and I certainly enjoy the banter with an English accent. I think they're quite funny, particularly if there's a sense of humour behind it, which there usually is. But for a youngster going to school, were you welcomed, or did you always feel a little uncomfortable early days?
I tell you what, I felt a lot of the kids at Dapto's school were English, and we all used to hang around together. And then there were lots of other migrant kids. There were lots of Maltese kids. There were Finnish and Danish kids. And later on, not so much there, but when I moved to Canberra, people would come around the house and hear how my parents talk, and then they'd go to school next day and say, "You should hear the way Kilbey's parents talk."
So you end up in Canberra, and at some stage or another, you've presumably picked up a guitar. How did that all start?
My dad was a wonderful guy. He was a musician. He got me tickets to see the Easy Beats when I was 11 years old. And I saw the Easy Beats play in Canberra at the Albert Hall. And I just absolutely loved them. And I walked out of there and I thought to myself, I'm going to be a rock and roller. And then when I was 16, I nagged my dad to get me a bass guitar. The universe was saying, you've got to play bass guitar. You could just say the word bass guitar and I'd go off into a dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was one that I wanted, and it was a Paul McCartney copy violin bass. And it was in this music shop in Canberra, and I'd just been standing there looking at it. I'd just go into town and stand there looking at it in the window. And eventually I convinced him to buy it for me. He didn't think I was going to stick at it, but I did. Obviously, otherwise, no interview now.
That's right. Yeah. We're talking to a guy who, when he was 14, got a guitar, and we didn't do anything with it. But
yeah. He wished he'd have bought it, but he never did.
It's sort of shades of that scene in Wayne's World, isn't it? Where Wayne goes in and just stares at that guitar with the "No Stairway to Heaven" sign next to it.
He bought me a bull worker.
Okay. Yep.
I had plans of getting all muscly and beating up the bullies at school. And after a while, the bull worker went in the cupboard. And my dad said, that bass guitar better not end up in the cupboard with the bull worker.
Steve, did music help you become popular? You were talking about the bullies at school, and no doubt that would have been part of your life, and I suppose you had to toughen up. But was music the thing that opened doors for you?
No, never did. Actually made me more unpopular. And when I thought after I'd been on Countdown and stuff, I'd be really popular at parties. And I found that sometimes the guys, when I walked in, all the blokes in the room wanted to thump me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it made things awkward and weird. And it didn't make me popular or any of the things I imagined.
At what stage did you think that the bass and obviously we'll talk a bit about your songwriting and your poetry and stuff in a moment, but at what point did you go, I could do this for a quid?
Right from the word go.
Okay.
My intent. I had an unswervable belief in myself. And I believed in myself for 10 years while nothing happened. I went on believing, and no one could dent my confidence or belief, even though there was absolutely no visible sign of anybody liking anything I did. And then, bang, we were on Countdown, and then the next day it all started.
So, Steve, how did you go bringing about getting the band together? Because a bass is a nice sound, but it doesn't work without other bits and pieces that come together. So was it other schoolmates, or did you have to go out of your ring of life to find people with the same dream?
I formed and fell apart with so many bands before the church. Peter Coppers was a guy who was the lead guitarist in the church. Am I talking too loud, Rachel, annoying the people around here?
Oh, no, you're doing fine from our perspective.
I'm getting a thumbs up from a guy.
Excellent.
Yeah, good.
That's all good.
Okay.
Pull out the old "Don't you know who I am"? That usually works well.
Where was I?
Peter Coppers.
He and I were double booked in a rehearsal room. There was this Methodist church, and one day my glam rock band was double booked there with his, he was playing Santana songs and stuff, and we met up, and so that's how I met him. And then eventually we had a horrible chap who was the drummer, who was actually from my old school, who was a real bully, and we kicked him out. And Marty Wilson Piper just turned up one day at a gig, at about our third gig, and he looked so good I invited him to join the band on the spot. which made everybody very angry. And they said, but you haven't even heard him play yet. And I was like, I don't have to hear him play. He just looks amazing. Can't play. He's like a great-looking guy to have in a band.
That was how Rob got this gig, and we didn't realise was radio.
Radio.
So the church took off, by my recollection, The Unguarded Moment being the first major commercial success.
Yep.
And then you started touring and became quite big in America, as I understand it.
Eventually, that was like 1988.
Oh, okay.
But we were a cult band before that. We were sort of like, we put out an album called Heyday that did okay in 1986. We started touring the world in 1982. We immediately went to England. We were in America in 1984. In 1988, when Under the Milky Way came out, we sold 1 million records, and we started doing quite well in America.
And Under the Milky Way, I think it's fair to say, was a relatively successful release for you?
Oh, yeah, that'd be an understatement.
Yeah. And to this day, every time I play it, and we will be doing that in approximately 10 minutes, everyone goes, oh, I love this song. Do you get that sense when you introduce yourself to someone that's the sort of overwhelming memory of people in the music that you guys have created over the journey?
If I get in a car, like often I find myself in Ubers and cabs, and what do you do? Oh, I'm a musician. What do you do? I'm in the church. Never heard of you. I wrote Under the Milky Way, and they go, oh, okay. Even a few years ago, I got in the car and the guy went, I've never heard of you. I said, well, who do you like? And he said, I like Sia. And I said, well, she's done a cover of one of my songs. And the guy was like, bullshit. And I said, put it on. I said, Sia, Under the Milky Way. And then he put it on. He was like, wow, you told the truth.
Always a good starting point.
But then he looked at then he Googled me, and there was this young, handsome bloke, and he looked at the old battered wreck sitting next to me, and he went, what happened? I said, well, that was like 40 years ago.
That's what happens when you write songs like this. And you've obviously had quite a bit of success with other activities, particularly around songwriting. I noticed I did a bit of research, which is unusual for this program. You've had a lot of different combinations of ensembles along the way. Have they been to try different types of music, or why not just always be the church?
The church only can do one album every now and then. Like, I'm constantly creating. Like, I'm writing so much stuff, and people approach me to collaborate, and I can't. People I really want to collaborate with, and I just create too much music to be contained to one thing, The church is definitely the most successful thing that I do, and none of the other things ever approach that. But I just love making music. I love writing songs. I love collaborating, and I've got about 1,500 songs out there. I've got about 100 albums that I've played on or contributed to. So I've been working hard for the last 45 years. One
of the previous guests we've had a number of really well-known Australian musos. We're very fortunate that guys like you take the time to chat to us. And I can't remember who it was I spoke to, but I said, do you want to be remembered as a songwriter or as a musician or a performer? And I can't even remember who it was or what they ended up saying. But if we threw that question at you, songwriter, musician or performer?
Songwriter. I'm a songwriter before I'm anything else. I'm not the best performer. I'm not the best musician you'll ever hear. That I am, and sorry to swear, I'm a bloody good songwriter.
No, and all the evidence is there to support that statement. I have no drama with that at all. So, Steve, the primary reason we got you on for a chat was because you are coming to town. Now, in the meantime, I noticed that you're off to the Maldives and off to the US in the meantime. But then around November, you're starting to do a tour with the church.
That's right. That's correct.
What brought that on? Anything specific, or just time to go out on the road again?
We seem to tour Australia once every year. it seemed to me the promoter, the audiences, and the rest of the band wanted the singles tour, and it just felt like it's time to do it. We've never done it before, and it just seemed like this was the time to have this. You know, you never know when it could be the last. You know, and when you get to my age, it just seemed like maybe I should. This would be a nice. If this was to be the end, it'd be a good way to do this singles tour because it's a career retrospective.
Mm.
You see, it's the singles, but it's like the singles from the beginning to the end, or wherever we're up to, you know. So it seemed like and the tickets are going really well, and the rest of the band are all much younger than me, and they like playing these singly songs, so they were really happy to do it. So that's the kind of the reason for all of this.
During the last couple of weeks, Russell Morris has announced that he's doing one last tour, and he's doing places like Hamer Hall and the Sydney Opera House and so on. You're doing the Barwon Club in Geelong. The choice of venue in this part of the world to be effectively a big pub.
You know, they said to me, "Hey, you want to do the Opera House or you want to do Barwon House in Geelong?" And I said, "Give me Barwon House."
Yeah, and we can absolutely see that.
I don't have any choice, and I mean, I could do. The promoter might come to me and go, well, he did, like in Melbourne, we're doing the Forum.
Mm.
We've been playing the Palais a lot, and he said, why don't we do something different, play the Forum? And a lot of people have been saying to me, why do you always play the Palais? We'd much prefer you play the Forum. So in that case, yeah, he gave me a choice. You know, so, but normally I don't really, a promoter says, hey, I'm going to put a tour together, and I just go, okay, and I sort of I turn up where I'm told to go.
Steve, you obviously are very proud of your own contribution in the songwriting department, but do you have something that someone else has written that you just go, wow, I wish I'd have written that?
Of course I do. Of course I bloody do. Like, yeah, Jesus.
Do you have a favourite songwriter that maybe has guided you a little?
David Bowie, the Beatles, Dylan, Mark Bolan, all those guys. I wish I'd written all of that.
If for no other reason than financial.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, we're going to let you go and catch an aeroplane, and we really appreciate you taking time out and annoying the people around you in the airport.
Okay.
But let's just tell people that if they want to know more about the upcoming collection of performances, you don't need to panic yet, folks, in terms of getting in your diary, but you do need to panic to get tickets. So you go to the website, thechurchband.com, and you'll be able to find out everything you need to know about the upcoming events in Geelong and in other parts around Australia as well.
Absolutely.
We're going to, unsurprisingly, leave this conversation playing a song you might recognise. It's called Under the Milky Way. Steve, you ever heard of it before?
I think I have heard it once or twice.
A beautiful, beautiful number. Steve, thank you so much for your time. Best wishes on your trip to Melbourne, surrounds, overseas, and then we are looking forward to seeing you in our town in November.
Okay, up the mighty Cats.
Yeah, go the Cats.
On you, Steve. See you, mate.
Okay.
There is Steve Kilbey from The Church.